Welcome back to Barely Keto. I'm Carl. Let's get started. In today's episode, I'm going to start by saying it's the 6-month mark of this journey for me. I weighed in the other day. I am officially at the 50-pound mark. Very happy about that. I'm wearing jeans I bought 5 years ago and could never squeeze my butt into. So I'm happy about that too. I just picked up 3 spare pairs of jeans. I've been giving a lot of thought to what my goal is going to be weight-wise. And I've decided that that's probably not the best measure for me. It's not going to be about pounds. It's going to be about waist size. In the book, he talks a bit about the fact that your midsection weight really has a bearing on your cardiac health, and that the ideal measurement at most is to take your height, divide it by 2, and that should be your waist size at a maximum. So that's going to be my goal, is 38 inches, because I'm a tall guy. I don't know how long it'll take me to get there. I'm hoping by fall, maybe. We'll see what the summer brings. And that's that. I just thought you'd like to know. So today I'm going to go over how I equipped my kitchen. It's the last setup episode. Next week we'll start getting into making some things. I'm doing a series of 5-minute lunches already as I can. I fast 2 days a week, Tuesday and Friday. I put up a bit about fasting earlier. I just want to make sure that you're aware of what you're getting into and things that I've learned along the way for making myself, successful during the work week. Having said that, let's go on a tour. First up is your freestanding mixer. This is a KitchenAid. It is about 22 years old now. This thing is a beast. It has your basic batter attachment, a dough hook, a whisk, 10 different settings, and the tip here, you can put in different attachments. One of the things that you can do up here is a meat grinder. So if you want to make your own ham salad or your own ground beef, you're set to go. Next up, food processor. Again, KitchenAid, again, 21 years old. This has an off, on, and pulse option. Tons of attachments. Get your S-blade. And then your various grating discs. Now this guy's about to go. He's getting some cracks in the mechanism that controls the sensor for it being on or off, and unfortunately they don't make this model anymore, and you can't get the replacement for this. But the only thing you really need when you're looking for a food processor, on or off, frankly, and then a grating disc is nice because you can do not only your cheeses if you want to work from block cheese, but I've been using it a lot for processing the grater for processing mushrooms and onions. It's just so much faster than cutting it. And other than that, you can keep it pretty simple. If you don't already have one and you're going to buy one, I wouldn't get another KitchenAid, frankly, because they're no longer made in the way that they were back in the day. I got a smaller version here, which is all plastic, compared to this, which has a metal base. And this I use for sauces. It's called a chopper. And you can use it to emulsify. So if you wanted to make your own mayonnaise or whatever, this is really nice for that. And it's got a pour spout in the top, so that you can actually get the, let me get this off. So you can actually just pour oil right into it without taking the lid off. I got this refurbished for, I think, under 20 bucks, which was nice. Buy something that's gonna last. That would be my advice. This is a generation. This is 21 years old. And the thing about the weight of it, you want it to be heavy, or as it runs, it's going to walk all over your counter. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, some of them have suction cups, but if you have a ground counter like this, it's too porous for those to work. So just keep that in mind. So food processor, mini food processor, staples. Another countertop standard, and I use this more low carb, high fat, no sugar, intermittent fasting than I have since I made that change, but that's only because I've been still getting my legs under me. But I have started using it recently, and that's an air fryer. Now, an air fryer is nice in that it is truly a mini oven. It uses convection heat, so you don't have to turn things if you load it properly. And the things about this is a Philips. It's a few years old now. Just make sure you get decent attachments or accessories. So this is a divider, so you can put something on the bottom. There's a grate in here, so you can set it right on the grate. Put a chicken breast in, put another chicken breast in. I made lunch for Jim and I yesterday. We had buffalo chicken wraps. It didn't take 5 minutes, but it was like 15 minutes and it was cooked, so it was perfect. And then you just throw it all in the dishwasher. The one thing that I regret about this particular model, and I don't know if they still make them that way, but if you can see in the bottom, there's this little tongue right here. It's at the very bottom. You can barely get your finger under it, and I can't tell you how many times I've sliced my hand open on that thing. So if you get one, and especially if you're gonna order it online, look at the inside of this pan. It is allegedly dishwasher safe, but this material is that really cheap nonstick stuff, and you can feel caked on oil all over it. No matter how much we soak it, no matter how much we put it through the dishwasher, it's never coming off. This is a small but important countertop appliance for me. It's a 2-stage knife sharpener. Part of my Sunday prep work is making sure that my knives are sharp. It's important when you're cooking. It's just, I'm a snob about a sharp knife. They save you a lot of time, a lot of headache. So this is always at the ready on Sunday prep day. This is a green pan essential pan, whatever that is. I bought it out of frustration trying to find a slow cooker. So Jim and I recently combined households. We overcleaned and we ended up without having a crock pot from say 20 years ago when the temperatures were stable and they were just better made. And all the replacements were kind of all over the place. So I did a lot of research and I found this. It's a little fancy, but it has become our go-to crock pot. It's got a huge capacity. I cook, Jim does the dishes, and he says that this thing cleans easier than anything we've ever had in the house. And it's the non-toxic stickware, which is good. It's electric. It just sits in these grooves in here. I can put it back. Set it to whatever you want. You can sear in this, which is nice. But the downside of that is there's no range hood above the island. So if you use this to sear and you do it, extensively, you got to watch out for what's going to happen to your ceiling. I'll put it on the stove with a cutting board underneath to stabilize it. And because it's easier to clean than any other pan that I have, I kind of do that sometimes to sear meat. The downside of this is you cannot lift this out once it's hot. I mean, you can, literally, but you would burn yourself. There's no way to get this out of here easily. And if you are doing something where you're trying to get the fat off, there's no way to easily do that. You'd have to hold the handles, put hot pads between your thumbs at the top, push down, pour, and this weighs probably 8 to 10 pounds, so it's not exactly the lightest piece of equipment. I use it at least twice a week now. It is a great slow cooker. It has variable temperatures. Green pan, give it a look, see if it's for you. One thing I didn't dig out because they just get crumbs everywhere is a toaster. So imagine a toaster right here. That's a staple for a counter appliance as well, whether for making toast or turning that toast into delicious breadcrumbs in the food processor. So get a toaster. This has become a regular. It's a kitchen scale. It's battery operated. A couple of things. The nice thing about this, if you're going to get one where you can set a tare. And then that lets you adjust for whatever the weight of the dish is that you're going to put things in. So if I'm cooking and I need to make 10 ounces of broccoli or whatever, I can set a tare for the bowl and then just start chopping broccoli until I get to what I need for the recipe and stop. The other thing to keep in mind, if you do get a kitchen scale, I don't like the fact that you can't remove this disc. So the actual pedestal, the glass pedestal, won't come off of this. So it's problematic to clean. So if you're going to get a scale, just consider that. I cook a lot by weight now, rather than a cup. I'll do however many ounces it is. It just makes things more precise. And with keto being so twitchy with baked goods, I just think that this is going to be handy as I play around with recipes. This This is a beast. This is a not quite commercial grade, but definitely higher than most vacuum sealer. So I've been around these my whole life. They have a heating element here, a vacuum area here. I'll do a demo in a second. It has an automatic mode where you just hit start, and when it hits a particular level of vacuum, it'll activate the heat seal. Or if you're doing things that are a little sloppy and you can't get all the water out without also sucking whatever it is into this area, there's a manual seal option as well, and a safety stop section. And the nice thing about this is the bags are BPA free and you can boil in them. Depending on what you're trying to vacuum seal, you have to freeze it first. So I'm going to show you that. So I have a chicken breast. If I put this chicken breast in just a Ziploc bag, it'll last a couple weeks in the freezer. But what I do is I slip it in the plastic bag, fold the top over, put a clip on it, put it in the freezer for like 12 hours or so. And you want to get it to set up so that you're not sucking the liquid out of the chicken breast as you do the vacuum. And by doing it this way, I can put it in the freezer for months. So I'm going to do a quick demo. It's going to be a little loud, so watch your ears. You just put it in here, close it. I kind of make sure it's smooth. Turn it on. Hit start. And let it do its thing. That was releasing the vacuum. Lift this up. It's got a little vacuum seal bar right across the top. And now, like I said, this will be at least 3 months for storage. And when I'm ready to defrost it, I can just throw it in the fridge, put it in a bowl of cool water, whatever I need to, depending on my speed. Let's talk Prepware. Colanders come in all kinds of sizes. This is plastic. This is stainless. I hate this one. This will last forever. It's been around a while. The thing I don't like about these is if you look at the foot, it's got this band to it. So as the water's coming down, it gets trapped in this collar. And then when you go to transfer it into something, it runs down and it puddles all over the counter, which is, depending on what you're straining, it's kind of a pain in the ass, frankly, and you have to just more to clean up. So I would stick with something like this, or if you go the metal route, pay attention to how this is formed. Get something with a smooth end rather than this upturn, which is going to just collect moisture. Next thing I use are sieves. I use this quite a lot. I use these to drain tuna, anything that you don't need the sauce in, whatever you're going to do, it's an essential. Mixing bowls, got a couple kinds here. So you got the kind that you can just throw a lid on it, which is nice. I got these on Amazon. That's really simple to put in the refrigerator. I also like this because it has a silicone bottom. So when you're doing things one-handed, it's not walking around the counter on you, which I love. And then, here's your classic metal bowl. Now, the thing I found out on these, I started cooking with egg more than I used to on a daily basis. And I find it far easier to crack an egg on this because the lip has a really small profile. And I know I could use a knife, but I'm trying to keep dishes down because Jim has to do the dishes and I want a happy home. So if you have this, which has this broader lip to it, it's a lot harder to crack an egg. So something I figured out this year. Another thing I do, really simple, bamboo skewer. I can't tell you how often I reach for these, especially if I'm frying, if I'm doing like pieces of chicken and I need to flip it over without taking the coating off. Just poke with one of these, flip it over, slide it off. You're good to go. I use these constantly. Cutting boards. I really got into these flexible boards. They're great to cut on and then just fold it up, put it in your bowl, and you're good to go, dishwasher safe. If you want a little more stability, and frankly, because I sharpen my knife so much, I tend to cut through these, so I gotta watch the counter. This is more your standard rigid board. It's made from recycled materials. And then your carving board, which has the ridges in it to collect the juices if you're gonna carve a roast or something. So those are the 3 cutting boards that we have in rotation. This is a great tool. These are called handy scrapers. This one has a silicone edge to it at the bottom. This one has some guardrails, if you will, and it's very sharp. I could cut with this. And so if I'm doing something that, onion, for example, tends to stick to things, asparagus, once it's cooked, if you have to do something with it, these are great to just slide up and then throw in your bowl. They're great little tools. Another thing I use on the regular is a steamer. Now I have a Black & Decker electric one as well that my sister-in-law gave me, gosh, like in the 90s. That's still holding up. But this is Farberware. It's never going anywhere. It'll be around forever. So I use the heck out of this. Hard-boiled eggs, broccoli, whatever. Knife set. The big knife set. It's got lots of rocker knives for chopping and cutting. It has a sharpener, but I use the electric one. And it's got scissors. So if you've got a few knives, you definitely want a rocker knife. I like this set because it's got specialty knives in it that these are holes, and they help keep the things like onion and whatnot sticking to the tool as you're cutting it. So I find that kind of nice. And then finally, and it might not seem like much in the category of prepware, but parchment paper. So we've been cooking with a lot of salmon, skin on, skin off. Putting a sheet of this on the bottom of your pan when you're cooking salmon, especially with the skin on, makes cleanup literally a snap. You just lift it, throw it away. It's paper, so it's not as bad as aluminum foil, and it makes cleanup a heck of a lot easier, which makes my husband a heck of a lot happier. And that's Prepware. Let's talk cookware. These are the basics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, some of these fall into two different categories. The cast iron skillet, I still have the label on it, but I've got another one that I've used. This works great, and a lot of keto recipes call for, cast iron grill. It's kind of just a silly convention, but it's fun at the same time, and believe me, when you're on this diet, you're gonna be looking for fun in the beginning. But I've used this to make mock cornbread, which turned out to be really good thanks to that synthetic flavoring. So that can go on the stove or that can go in the oven. This is a Dutch oven. I got it like 4 or 5 years ago now. I use this like I would never have imagined I'd use it so much. I cook so many things in here, from pot roasts to breaking down chicken for shredded chicken. You can start things on the stove and then transfer them to the oven for a low and slow cook. It's great. And I recently came across something. So a week ago, this was completely brown inside. And what I read online was to fill it with hydrogen peroxide and baking soda. Set it on the stove, bring it to a boil, let it simmer, and it breaks the carbon bonds of the carbon stuck to the sides, and it clearly it worked. Amazing. Looks brand new. Little tip. So Dutch oven, little omelet pan. I don't have breakfast every day. That's the meal that I skip. But sometimes I have it for dinner or for lunch because I do love breakfast. I just don't have to eat it in the morning. Here's another green pan. This is nice. It's got about a 3-inch depth interior. It's got straight walls, which is nice because that gives you the most amount of room at the bottom. So this is also really good for browning things. It's got a special coating. I love this. This is a breeze to clean. I like the handle. This is a really substantial pan. And your saucepan, the lid, so you can pour things out. This is really handy. And then your classic stock pot. I bought this in the 1980s before I even had a stove or a house or an apartment. I don't know why. It was on sale and I worked at Strawbridge and Clothier and I had to have it. And it's been with me ever since. Bakeware. This is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. This is what I use every week. A rimmed stoneware pan. So I use this to make the oven roasted cauliflower. I've roasted more vegetables since I started this diet than I ever thought I would because I can't stand soggy food. And by roasting it, you basically get it to release a lot of its moisture. You can salt things sometimes too to get it to do the same process. I can't have a lot of salt, so I can't do that, but you know, one day I'll get into the science behind that. And then the other thing I use this for is if I'm doing chicken breasts or fried chicken in the oven, I'll start the fried chicken on the stove so that it gets a nice color to it. Then I'll put this grid in here, it's raised a little bit. Then I'll finish things in the oven at a lower temperature, and it comes out very tender and juicy. So this gets a lot of use, which is why it's so carbonized. Classic Corningware dish. Do a lot of casseroles in here. Now this is a little 11 by 7 pan, Pyrex, it's about 2 inches deep. This was on the chopping block right before I had that doctor's visit and got, you know, set on this journey, because I'd never used it. We'd had it in the house forever and neither one of us used it, but it's perfect for doing asparagus for one thing. It's also perfect for doing, you know, a smaller size of a casserole, or a casserole that needs to be spread out a little bit more so that it cooks thoroughly quickly without burning on top. It's perfect. And then your classic 13 by 9. And then this is a 9 by 9 stoneware pan. Believe it or not, this is 20 some years old. I don't know why this has stayed so pristine and the other one got so gross. But there you go. We'll use for noodleless lasagna bakes, which I'll, you know, give you the recipe for that one day. We'll go over that. I basically just learned how to make a lasagna without pretending to ever have a noodle again. And this is the perfect size for that. So that's the bakeware. And that brings us to utensils and just, you know, things that go with. So I'm just going to run through all these. Spoon rest. I have so many of these. They're perfect. You have to have them. This is a juicer. It's very good for getting the juice out quick or making a cosmopolitan quick. I use it for both. Whisks of assorted sizes and materials. This one's metal, so for my stainless that's fine. But if I'm going to use the non-stickware, I would use a silicone bladed whisk instead. Here's another juicer. It's for bigger fruits, and it's got a little strainer in front so you don't get the pulp in where you don't want it. This is a scoop, so you can use this. I've been using it for when I play around with baking. I'm trying to find the right serving size. There's a cheddar biscuit recipe that Chrissy talked about, which is really good. We'll go over that at some point. But this is good for measuring your portions if you're doing baked good. This is called a chopper, Pampered Chef. This one's, again, this is like 20 some years old. And the thing I love about this is as you do it, it changes the position of the blade. So you can just put something under here and really have at it, and these will rotate around so you can get really finely diced materials. And you can just put it on like that if you want to store it. It's great. Shrimp deveiner, if you get your shrimp raw and with veins. This is an herb processor. You use it to strip the leaves off of various sized herbs. This is really handy for a hack. This is an egg slicer. Just put the egg in, and you've got like a dozen slices. So this is really good for putting together salads or egg salad. Your box grater is every day because there's so much cheese in this diet. You got the broad side on this side, you got a finer side on this side, and the zester built right in here as well. So when you're getting a box grater, you know, think about how you want to use it. This is like 3 things in one. Garlic press, love garlic, use it every day. Measuring cups and spoons, can opener, chef's tongs, so it goes wide, or you can lock it and it goes like this. I had these, I'm not kidding, for 6 months and thought, what a crap design. Who can pick anything up this small? And then I happened to drop it and it put that in and it went like that, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. So anyway, little tip. Slotted spoon, this one's nylon. I have metal as well. A ladle for my soup, or, you know, I've been known to have to collect a urine sample from a pet or two. I didn't use this one, but just so you know, this is a great way to get a urine sample from your pet. Then you have a rubber spatula for scraping the sides of bowls. Again, this is about 20 years old. It used to be a nice ivory color, and then I made something with turmeric in it, and it turned this sort of interesting color. It was bright yellow for about 3 weeks. Wooden spoons, I've got tons of those. Meat tenderizer. Now I'm trying to move away from as much non-recyclable plastic as possible. So that's another use where parchment paper comes in. If you put the chicken breast or whatever you want to pound in between parchment paper, it'll hold up while you pound it. And then you can just, put the parchment paper away and it'll degrade. And then whisks, or not whisks, I'm sorry, mashers. So this is a classic potato masher. Came from the dollar store. We do a lot with cauliflower now. And it's kind of flimsy, so I've bent it more than once. So I went and I upgraded to this style on Amazon. It's sort of shaped like an asterisk in a way. And this was working against me. It's got so many points that the cauliflower would get stuck in it and I'd have to keep cleaning it out. So if you're gonna do a lot of mashed cauliflower, this is the way to go. This guy right here. An instant read thermometer. This is by a company called ThermoWorks. And as soon as you put the tip in the meat, it's gonna give you the readout for the temperature. And the temperature, so if you go this way, the temperature will still be read up and down. So this is great, and it's illuminated. So we have our grill in the back of the house and it doesn't have the best lighting. I use this literally every single dinner. I always cook the temperature now. And then this little guy, this guy's a lot of fun. This is an auto stirrer. So if I've got a cream-based sauce or that condensed soup, for example, on the stove and it has to simmer for a while to thicken up, if I don't feel like using the xanthan gum, we just put this in. It's got 3 different settings. It'll stay on for as long as you want. It's microwave cleanup. It's made out of nylon, so it's safe to use. I love this thing. It's so nice not to be stuck at the stove for 30 minutes while I'm trying to cook down some sauce. And those are the utensils. The only thing you won't need is a pasta fork. Say bye-bye. The only other thing to talk about is storage. It's such a personal choice, depends on your preferences for glass versus plastic, recyclable versus toss away. I try to use, again, as much recyclable material as I can. So I've invested in a lot of Pyrex dishes with lids and Rubbermaid containers that, last, 5-10 years. And they're all, stand for recycling. So that's really it. That's the kitchen. So next week we're gonna do recipes. Thanks so much for coming. You didn't get to see much of my face today, but I'm trying to figure out the cameras and the lighting and try out this new lavalier mic. And thanks for coming. See you next week. Episode 5, we start cooking.